Hulk versus the Sentinel, one monster versus many machines. In the twilight of a world constantly teetering between safety and chaos, there existed a strange kind of balance, an uneasy truce between man's need to control and nature's urge to resist. Somewhere in the shadows of that conflict rose a figure that defied both science and fear, a creature forged in anger and loneliness, the Hulk. He was not a hero in the conventional sense, nor a villain by choice, but something in between, a force of raw emotion and unmatched strength, exiled and hunted for the very power he never asked to bear. Far away, in sterile laboratories buried beneath layers of steel and policy, another force was taking shape, cold, calculated, and artificial. The Sentinels. Machines birthed not out of emotion but logic, built for control, for dominance, for the enforcement of order where chaos dared to thrive. Designed to neutralize threats beyond human capability, they had evolved from simple metal brutes to autonomous war engines, smarter, faster, deadlier. Their purpose was not justice, but preservation of control. And one name continued to appear on their list, blinking red with priority: Hulk. The confrontation did not begin with thunder and fire, but with silence, a foreboding stillness that only precedes the most devastating storms. In a remote region of the Pacific Northwest, far from cities and far from mercy, the forest whispered its last calm sigh before the earth shook beneath marching steel. The Hulk had wandered into these woods, seeking solace where none would find him. He did not destroy for the sake of destruction. He did not rage without cause. But even monsters needed silence, and even beasts yearned for peace. Among the towering pines and whispering rivers, he found a fleeting moment of that serenity, until the sky split with the scream of descending metal. From above, the Sentinels arrived, not one, not two, but dozens. Sleek and angular, like vultures cast in titanium, they hovered with cold precision, scanning the ground with eyes that glowed a harsh, unforgiving blue. The forest beneath them recoiled, the animals fled, and the air grew heavier with tension. They had not come to observe. They had come to eliminate. The first blast came swift and merciless, a beam of energy searing through treetops and exploding against the ground near the Hulk's feet. He turned, his emerald eyes narrowing, his massive frame tensing with the recognition of danger. The machines circled, their voices like echoes of an uncaring god, cataloging threat levels, calculating engagement strategies. But no machine, no matter how advanced, could truly calculate what they faced. The Hulk roared, not in anger, but in warning. Trees trembled, birds scattered, and even the Sentinels paused momentarily, their circuits parsing the data. Then the ground erupted. The green giant leapt into the air with terrifying speed, crashing into the nearest Sentinel like a meteor of fury. Metal twisted, circuits sparked, and the first machine fell in a heap of shrapnel and failure. But for every Sentinel that fell, 3 more closed in. They adapted, recalibrated, learned. Lasers tracked his movement, sonic cannons fired with pinpoint accuracy, nets woven from energy lattices attempted to bind him. They did not understand exhaustion, nor fear, nor pain. But neither did the Hulk. He was a storm made flesh, a tempest of rage and survival. They tried overwhelming him with numbers. They tried strategy. They deployed new variants, sleeker, stronger, designed to suppress superhuman threats. Yet, for every strategy they enacted, the Hulk answered not with tactics but with raw, primal might. He tore them apart with his hands, ripped limbs from frames, used broken machines as weapons against the rest. The forest became a graveyard of steel, the earth scorched and cratered by their war. Still, the Sentinels did not retreat. They had no protocol for failure. They had no soul to question their mission. And that was their greatest weakness. In a clearing where once deer had grazed and moss covered the stones, now stood the lone figure of the Hulk, surrounded by the wreckage of war machines. His body bore the wounds of battle, scorched flesh, torn skin, blood that steamed in the cold air. Yet he remained standing, panting not from fatigue, but from fury. Then came the final wave, larger, more menacing, forged for one purpose only: termination of the highest level threat. The Prime Sentinel, towering above the others, armed with every known weapon system, capable of adaptive combat and limitless aggression. It landed with a tremor, its voice booming like a cannon through the ruined trees. The Hulk did not flinch. The battle that followed was cataclysmic. Blows that could flatten buildings were exchanged like punches in a barroom brawl. The ground split, rivers rerouted, the very landscape scarred by their conflict. The Sentinel calculated every move, countered every attack, exploited every weakness. But it could not understand the core of the Hulk's power, his emotion, his instinct, his defiance. For every attack the Sentinel delivered, the Hulk answered with a fury born of survival, with the strength of 1,000 injustices endured. The clash seemed endless, a nightmare without resolution. But all storms pass, all machines break. In the final moment, as smoke and silence reclaimed the forest, the Prime Sentinel lay broken, its head buried in the dirt, its core flickering into darkness. The Hulk stood above it, his breath ragged, his fists clenched, his eyes burning not with triumph, but with weariness. He did not roar. He did not celebrate. He merely turned away, as if even victory tasted like ash. The machines had underestimated the truth they were never programmed to understand. They believed they fought a monster, but they fought something far more terrifying. They fought a soul that refused to be caged, a being forged not in labs or logic, but in heartbreak, in exile, in fury. The Hulk disappeared once again into the forest, leaving behind nothing but silence and shattered steel. The world would not thank him. The cities would still fear him. Governments would still hunt him. But for now, the machines had learned what countless others had before them. You cannot crush a storm with metal hands. You cannot tame a soul with programming. And you cannot defeat the Hulk with numbers alone. In the end, it was not a story of heroism or villainy. It was a tale of will versus design, spirit versus system. One monster, born of man's fear, standing against many machines, built by that same fear. And though he walked alone, misunderstood and hunted, the Hulk remained undefeated. Not because he was stronger, but because he refused to yield. And in a world drowning in the noise of control, sometimes that is the greatest strength of all.
Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe if you like videos like this. Thank you.